Would you hire a one-armed man to be your security? I think this movie belongs to Tommy Lee Jones.
There's no bargain.
There's no bargaining.
Yeah.
He will take him out if he needs to.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Reel Chums, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
This week, we are discussing The Fugitive, directed by Andrew Davis and written by Jeb Stewart and David Twohy. The film stars Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, Stella Ward, and Joe Pants.
We're kicking off our theme this month, Wrongfully Accused, where every week we'll discuss a different movie about innocent people on the run. Next week, we're throwing it back even further with Hitchcock's North by Northwest. But before we roll the intro, we want to keep Reel Chums ad-free forever. So if you enjoy what we do and want to support us, head over to reelchums.com. That's REELCHUMS.com, where you can donate $1, $5, or any amount. It helps us keep the lights on and continue to do the show.
Thank you so much for all who have donated so far. It really means the world to us. If you haven't already, head over to youtube.com/reelchums to join in the conversation, where we also post all sorts of other content there. So with that being said,
let's roll that intro.
this is one you wanted to do for quite some time.
Yeah, I think I talked about it like last season too.
Yes.
And then a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I had seen U.S. Marshals.
It was in preparation to, or no.
It was instead of watching Batman Forever because I was so annoyed by it. I instead watched U.S. Marshals because it was streaming, and so I watched that. So yeah, this has been long awaited for us to discuss The Fugitive.
Yes, and I had never seen this movie.
What?
Yeah, I realized I'd never seen it.
Really?
I was kind of shook.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, I thought I had seen it.
You thought you had seen it, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have seen U.S. Marshals, though. Because I'm pretty sure that one was on repeat on, like, TBS.
Yeah,
or maybe that's just Texas freaking Walker. I don't know. Some of these movies are a little, or some of these stuff is like, I'm like, I don't know. It gets a little muddy in this time.
Oh, I'm so glad now. I am so excited to discuss this.
This is kind of why I'm like, we postponed recording this episode because we had other stuff we had to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you ready to do The Fugitive? Because I'm like dying to talk about it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Look, quick question of the day, Danny. If you were the CEO of a big pharma company,
I have been.
Would you hire a one-armed man to be your security? The head of your security?
Dude, I'm an all equal type guy.
Okay? Good for you.
All right. I would ask him though, how good his aim is. Okay.
That's.
I feel like it's valid.
Yeah. No.
I mean,
are you left-handed, sir?
Yes.
And you lost your left hand?
Yeah, that's my question. Yeah.
Right. So.
I mean, I'm not. He would have to go through the same rigorous situations that all the other candidates would have to go through.
Of course.
Okay.
Good.
But if he kicks butt, then I'm all for it.
Good.
I'm not discriminating, but I don't think they had some of the same policies that we used to have. We recently got rid of them.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, man.
Not by choice.
No.
Well, no. Some people by choice, I think.
I guess some people voted for this crap.
What a freaking. We don't condone any party here. What we do condone is intelligence. Please do your research of all political parties. Take into account the good and the bad. Really weigh your options and ask yourself, is this really what I want in a valuable person? That is all.
This public service announcement was brought to you by
PBS Kids. No, I'm not really from PBS Kids, but
no, we don't want to get in trouble. Yeah, I was just thinking, watching it this time, I was like,
that's a great question. I also had like, who would have hired this guy? I
mean, it's the whole premise of the entire TV show, right? So it's like, yeah, I get it. Roll it over to the movie. Okay, well then let's jump into it.
Yeah, let's just get in.
This is your first time watching it then.
First time watching it. Yeah. But let me just do the synopsis real quick.
Please.
So, after being wrongfully convicted of murdering his wife, Dr. Richard Kimball escapes custody and races against time to uncover the truth. while being relentlessly pursued by U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard.
Overall, your feelings towards this high level.
Okay, so initial feelings.
Yeah.
Is coming out of the film.
Yeah.
I watched this about a week and a half ago. I wanted to do a rewatch, but there was a ton of stuff going on. And I just have to tell you, it was a hoot to watch.
Good.
I absolutely love. In fact, I got finished with that, and I'm like, I think this is the reason why I love series, because movies used to pack. You know, if you were gonna do a good movie or like, there's movies out there like, no, we have to do a lot. We'll pack as much as we can, and we're gonna be concise, and we're gonna write good moments, and it's freaking packed. This was a TV show before, or it has become, or henceforth. What's the breakdown there?
Yeah. So this was a TV show back in the 60s. It ran for 4 seasons, give or take.
Okay.
I was looking this up because I was like, all 4 seasons are him trying to find who murdered his wife, a one-armed man that murdered his wife. And it's just mind-boggling that they dragged this on for 4 seasons. And every episode, not every, but yeah, every episode, Richard Kimball, is trying to find who the murderer. I think the first episode starts off with him already like 6 months on the run.
Oh, okay.
And trying to find the murderer, but he meets different people along the path that he helps out.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's this show. Every episode, new characters are introduced. He helps someone out, makes their life better,
finds a new clue,
and continues to move forward.
See, and you know what? I mean, I was, as I was watching, I'm like, man, this probably would be a great TV show.
Dude, I have a pitch for a TV show. We'll talk about it at the end of this.
I'm so pumped because it's been a while since we have one of these.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying is, like, I got done with this film. Like, this is a perfect example of like what I think some filmmakers are missing nowadays. Is that we have 2 options. They're like, and we talked about this in our episode last week, which was one of our longest episodes. So if you listen to all of it, shout out to you, real MVP. But the fact that, like, because of this idea that, like, no, I want to make an epic story, and I want to build out bigger arcs in a film that aren't fully completed because you're looking to get that second sequel, right? Sometimes you're either not making it concise enough to make it punch harder, or you're not writing tight enough to fit the full story of what they're trying to accomplish. And this film, I thought did a fantastic job at giving us a really solid 3-act structure in his journey that felt very reminiscent to, like, oh, I'm just bitching a TV show. Yeah. Right. And just part of me, I mean, I think I've said this, I'm like, I do really thoroughly enjoy series, not necessarily over films. It's just like, I thoroughly enjoy the character development that happens there. Yeah. If it's, sometimes there's hit and misses, but overall that journey that goes across, it just can leave an initial stronger impression for me. And I also just love that what you can do with the story. But film, when done right, is a 1-2 punch. Yeah. It's your jab, jab, right hook. It's and this is it. And so I'm really, really excited to be talking about this film. Good. In fact, I actually think, yet again, a 90s film that is just setting the stage and it's just a banger. So
a total banger, dude. I love it. Early 93.
When did you watch this first?
I think I watched this first when I was probably like 11 or 12. It's one of those movies that, like, my dad rented. Yeah. Okay. And he's like, we're watching this. This is a great movie. My mom was like, oh yeah, The Fugitive. My mom loves Harrison Ford, right? So it was like, okay, let's sit down. And when I watched it, I was just like mind blown at, like, for, I'm an 11, 12-year-old who likes action movies, whatever. Yeah. And for how little quote unquote action there is, I was just so captivated by the story. Yes. I also have this, like, weird fear of like being wrongfully accused of something. Oh,
I am pumped to watch the rest of these films now.
This is something I talk about with my wife too. Like, I'm just like, I just don't want to ever be caught on the wrong side of the law or whatever, like wrongly caught, right? And so it's just like, I was just so fascinated by this. and captivated. And I'm like pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure that this was my first Harrison Ford movie outside of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I'm like 98% sure, and it was just great for me to see someone that I'd seen a lot of in those two series, and to see them outside of that.
Yeah.
And just see this. And this is what's great about Harrison Ford. He has the capacity to be the everyman, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's an archaeologist, a doctor, a smuggler in space, like he is great at just playing the everyman.
Yeah.
And so I was just so captivated by his performance. I think now as an adult, and maybe we'll talk this through, but I think this movie belongs to Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think this is his movie, but that doesn't take away from Harrison's performance. Rather, I think his performance is incredible for someone who has very little lines and very little dialogue. He does a lot with his facial expressions.
So this is the one thing that I realized. Almost every film that I've watched that is outside of in these Harrison Ford like glory days that we consider like that when people think about like Harrison Ford and he was like a hot commodity or whatever. Mm-hmm. How few lines they gave him.
This is and that's a good director knows how to leverage Harrison Ford, right? Because he is an quote unquote untrained performer, right? He was a carpenter.
Yeah. But
and was found, right? And so when you
was he found? Or I thought he was like he wanted to be an actor, but he just was biding his time.
I should probably look more into it. But that's kind of like his thing, though, is that he isn't someone that's going to give you a minute-long monologue. It's leveraging his innate broodiness, so to speak, and his stoicism to just drive a story and a character forward. And like if you look at his best performances, I mean that's kind of it. Like that's really what he does. That's what he's best at. I do think Mosquito Coast is an incredible movie, but I think that's where he's leveraged more as his dialogue and he's guided really well. But
and I guess if you're only talking about movies, I'm thinking Shrinking.
Shrinking, he's incredible.
Incredible. And in fact, I'm like, did they finally give him a part to like shine, or is it that he had enough acting seasoned that he was able to pop, right? And that's like it's like weird chicken and egg type thing.
But you're also like leaning into what makes him really great in Shrinking, right?
I don't disagree. Yeah,
100%. He's the disgruntled older gentleman.
Yeah.
That will tell you off and will say whatever he wants to say, right? So that's Harrison Ford in real life.
Yeah.
And so like you're leaning into his strengths in Shrinking and just enhancing what he's naturally good at.
Now, I will say I do feel like they're doing that here.
Yes.
I feel like what the team with Andrew Davis is doing is really bringing to light both Tommy Lee Jones's performance and his crack team.
Yeah.
Even though we don't get a ton of it, I'm sure that in a TV series they probably had some more blah blah blah. And there could be some more interaction or showcase, but Harrison Ford shines every single time. Like you said, when he's on screen, his emotion, his physicality, his like the rawness, the fact that he feels very real from his performances throughout each scene. When he does give lines, when he's on the run, he's trying to figure things out. It feels like a doctor on the run.
Yeah.
When you're watching on screen, and I totally can see how as an 11-year-old, you said captivated, could be traumatized.
Yes, definitely.
but this reality of being like, because I was captivated. I mean, I think that the lines are strong. They're concise. They're impactful. They're witty. There's
a lot of it written the day of. This movie was written
As they shot?
As they shot.
Oh, dude, this makes it even better. Are you serious? Can you
Yeah. So this movie went through about 20 different rewrites.
Why?
They couldn't nail down on a good story. Originally, this movie was pitched by Gerard's wife, Tommy Lee Jones's wife.
Tommy Lee Jones' wife?
Yes, sorry, in the character.
Oh, yeah.
There was a pitch originally where Gerard's character is after Kimball because his wife died in one of his surgeries. Okay, and so like he's on the run, and Gerard's after him trying to avenge his wife's death. And when what's his face? When Davis got on and he's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna do this. Like that's not how it's gonna work." But yeah, it went through lots of rewrites. They handed the script to Tommy Lee Jones, to his manager, to his agent. His agent then read it and was like, "Yeah, I'll pass it on over." And he read it and he's like, "This is really good, but there's a lot of work that we need to do on here. And if you're willing to let me like come in and like
do some
work with this, I'll 100% join the movie." And this was to the producer. And so then they said, "Okay, yes. Yeah, let's collaborate more." And then it was Harrison Ford's idea to bring in Andrew Davis because he had done Under Siege.
Okay, yeah.
And he loved that movie. And so he's like, "Let's bring him on." And then they pitched this idea. And he's like, "Yeah, if I'm going to work with Harrison Ford
and Tommy Lee Jones,
I'll do it." And then once Andrew Davis came on board, then they reached out to Tommy Lee Jones because Tommy Lee Jones had done, I think, 2 movies up to this point with Andrew Davis. So they had a good relationship, and then he brought him onto the movie. But they were writing out the script. And this is what's really great about Tommy Lee Jones' performance is that a lot of what he does is on the spot. Ad-libbing. The whole "I didn't kill my wife, I don't care." He made that up on the spot, okay? The original line was, "It's not my job."
Yeah.
The great line of...
There's some amazing one-liners in this film.
Tommy Lee Jones brings a lot of... he wrote like a lot of his lines. The scene when he's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. "I'm thinking, why don't you think over
Think me a coffee.
A coffee and a chocolate donut with those little chocolate sprinkles." That was him ad-libbing that too. Okay.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So yeah, so they were writing out this movie as they were shooting. The whole parade sequence was thought of like 4 days before.
Oh, phenomenal.
And they called the parade, the organizers. They said, "Can we do this?" Or like, "Yeah, we just can't stop the parade for you." And like, "That's fine." And with the Steadicam, they just film it. No rehearsal, nothing. They just said, "Okay, we're showing up. Go in there."
This is I think I resonate. I think in my soul, I knew that this film was like just there's a different level when you're in this level where you're like, you're like, "No, we have a deadline. We are trying to make a film. We want to make this film. We know that this is a good story. We want to tell it." And you're working to find you're like riffing. Just last weekend there was a 48-hour film festival here in Utah. Now I didn't participate. I had some things I needed to work on, but the game plan is to do it next year.
Yeah.
And because I was slated to be on a team and help out with some editing, I just couldn't make it. But that pressure, that like cooker of like, we want to make this happen. You're trying to figure things out because like they're doing shoots, but then you know that these guys are at dinner, hanging out, riffing, coming up with like what's next.
Yeah, and I think like the total shoot for this was like 6 weeks. They're filming in February and March, and then by August the movie's out.
I love it.
And it's so amazing. I think I'm very like fascinated by the whole production aspect of it. How they had a blueprint of a script, and then on the day of, they're figuring out. The week before the parade, they're like, "We're in Chicago. We might as well leverage the parade. How can we leverage it?" And they write out a sequence of how they're going to do it. I think the final act had was originally supposed to be Gerard chasing Kimball in a subway, but like he's on a car chasing him on the tracks, and they were just like, nah, this isn't gonna work. So then they just rewrite the whole last sequence to make it a little bit more personal.
I love it.
But it's just incredible, and I think you have, going back to Harrison Ford, his physicality and his ability to just show so much emotion.
Yeah.
Especially when he makes the conscious decision to say the script, not that the script was bad,
No.
but that he knows that he can elevate this script by maybe not talking a lot, right?
I agree. I actually think, because like I do. There's a couple of moments where I do wish there'd been a little bit more. But at the end of the day, the man's on the run. You don't want to be memorable.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they do an amazing job at providing a level of like, this man is smart.
Mm-hmm.
He was a doctor for a reason. He went out and was doing surgeries and whatnot. And being able to like, okay, well, I know I need to get this. I need to make this happen, but I want to bide my time and I want to be smart. I don't want to reach out to anybody too soon. And be able to fear, because he has this drive to want to, correct this injustice to not only himself, but bring justice to his wife.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great, it's phenomenal. What are some of the early parts of the film that you feel are nailed, that help like lock in some of the great stories for the rest of the film? Because like, I feel like the second act and third act feel quite long.
Yeah.
They're not boring. They're not like feeling like it's like too long, but they're meaty.
Yeah.
And so that first opening that opening arc leading to him running, what is it about there that you feel like are big wins?
I love the first act of this movie. You have obviously the murder, the trial, the bus and train sequence.
Oh, such a freak.
You have him going into the hospital and cleaning up. You then have the whole ambulance helicopter sequence, and then the sewer scene. That's all the first act.
That's all and that's what I'm saying.
It's 40. I counted. I think it was like 43 minutes, something like that. And it's like the things that not that the second and third act aren't good, but like the big moments and set pieces that we remember this movie, not all of them, but like the big ones, are in this first act.
Yeah.
And it's paced so well because it's just go, 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 right? We don't spend a lot of time on the whole courtroom moments, right? Mm-hmm. Like he gets arrested. This is what happens. Here's your sentence, right? And then we just, it's great because like the movie also, like you have the credits running, the credits stop for a while he's in the court sequence, and then it picks up again back when they're in the bus driving to the prison. So it's just kind of.
I wonder if they did like a reshoot there and they just slotted it in.
Oh, maybe.
Like they're like, hey, like the editor's like, guys, I think we need something to help like tie this over. Can we just go shoot like 5 scenes or like a scene, a set of sequence in a courtroom? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it moves so well that because the first act is paced really efficiently, it helps push forward the second and the third act. And I think it just hooks you in. And not that it's boring or slow. I think it's more thought-provoking moments in the second and the third act than we have in the first. But because the first act is so good, it just makes, for me, I don't know. I never felt like it was slow. I just felt like it was a well-paced, edited movie.
The
entire time.
To me, what I like about the opening and this opening arc is that, one, we don't, the murder isn't fully, it's like it happens,
Right.
but it's in pieces, right? We're experiencing this like this replay sort of thing of like
Very stylized too.
yeah, it's a stylized situation. You have you get it at a couple different versions to some degree, like a different moments of this. I also love that we this person got money.
Yeah.
I love the foundational work that happens.
He's cocky too. When we see him at the little
Dinner cocktail thing.
Fundraising thing. Yeah, he's cocky. He's
Yeah.
got this chip on his shoulder. The house. Yeah, go on.
And so I really enjoy that. And then but I love the straight shock he has with the fact that they're accusing him of murdering his wife, and him just like trying, like he's stated that he's innocent, and yet is being like stonewalled by the police on like actually doing due diligence or whatever. And I truly love that, like, it goes through this situation. I'm like, I mean, there are hundreds of people who have said that they are wrongly accused, and it is, the battle of many or a few choice lawyers and firms that are trying to find out if these individuals are innocent. And it's not an easy thing. It takes years to even make it. I mean, we watched the hurricane, how, the journey that one is.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just really love, and at the end of the day, the 90s and practicals. I mean, the train scene. The train with the bus.
Yeah.
Like the whole sequence for the run is truly just phenomenal. I love the snarky comments. I love the tension, the rise in tension that is built in this bus, and the sequence of events that leads to a great set piece in film. I would have loved to have seen this I want them to do a rerun in theaters. I would go see this in theaters in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah. But and the script takes the time to also like flesh out the character of Kimball, right? Because very smartly he stays behind. He helps the guy that's been shot, the cop or the security officer or whatever. And it does this throughout the movie to remind you that he is a good man. Yeah, he's been wrongfully accused, but like he will go out of his way to help and support someone that's in need.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent to how the original series was.
Yeah.
But like it takes that time to do that because you want to cheer for Harrison Ford. Look, choosing to cast Harrison Ford, you automatically are going to like him and cheer for him.
Yeah.
Right? But you take the time in the script to show why you want to cheer for him.
Yeah. And you give, and the performances are great.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you also juxtapose it with characters that you just love to hate. I mean, the security guard who is like aggressive, who doesn't like his job, and really doesn't like the inmates, and is doesn't care about these people are not humans.
Yeah, I love that. I think my favorite, or the thing that stood out to me the most in that sequence was after when they survive and he's talking to the other prisoner.
Oh, okay.
And Coleman is like, "Be good," right? And he leaves he's like, "Just don't follow me." And he's like, "All right, just be good." And one goes one way. I love the decision to not have a dialogue between the two of like, "Hey, I'm leaving. You want to like, what are you gonna do?" "Oh, I'm gonna go try to solve my wife's murder."
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to tell me that.
Yeah.
The decision to say like he's just going to run away and like try to escape, I think is so smart. I think an amateur filmmaker like myself or writer like myself would have been like, no, we need to like plant the seed to say like, hey, are you gonna wait for like?
I mean, we know you love your good exposition.
I love a good exposition,
but this is one of the places you don't want to do.
You don't want to do it, right? Like let the perfectly paced movie that this is play out on its own and allow the viewer to say, what's going to happen next?
Yes, this is 100% what I think this film does great. you don't know what's happening next. Like every moment comes in. Like I think the perfect example of this is like that moment he says, be good, don't follow me.
Yeah.
He runs off, and because I mean these inmates, they probably think that if I have my chance, I'm gonna book it.
Yeah.
That's not what Kimball's thinking about. He's just thinking like, is this really real?
Yeah.
Right? He's like just trying to still compute what the heck's happening. But I then absolutely love that we then get introduced to Gerard.
Yes.
Right? Because he comes in, he comes in out of show, everything's already in motion. Like, news crews are out there. We have the recovery of the officer. He's talking to the news people. All this stuff has happened. We just get to introduce to Gerard and his crew. There's a line in there that I didn't write it, but I was like,
what I want from each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, and doghouse in that area. Ah, so good! I remember the trailer for this. Anyways, go.
That was one of the lines?
That's one of the lines in the trailer.
It's so, to me, and I love a good Tommy Lee Jones, because there's another film that he like this like authoritative. Tommy Lee Jones, like we watched him in Batman Forever, and he's just hamming it up for ham's sake.
Sure, yeah.
Like there's no whatever. But these movies, this moment, these type of characters, where he's got authority, and he's got direction and drive. This is like bread and butter for Tommy Lee Jones, and I am always here for a good moment of this. Like like the one-liners, the fact that he's like in a lot of these moments, as you suggested, are like him riffing, him being in a moment, doing a yes and response, sort of like true acting, performing.
Yes,
it's just this is it eludes, or it what's the word? The presentation, the magic of filmmaking is brought because of that.
And I think it's very crucial to point out the fact that you give him a team, right?
Yes.
That's something that the TV show didn't really have. You had Gerard constantly, he had people, but they weren't really big supporting team like here we see it.
Yeah.
And I think when you have, Joey Pants and other individuals that are able to riff off of him, especially Joey Pantalonia, right? Like we know who he is. Like he's great at just like riffing. And so you put him and you put a cast of a team that he is able to have these interactions with. Now, not only is Gerard a strong leader, but we're shown how he interacts with his team and why they will follow him, right? Yeah, you have Joey Pants, his character that just wants to go home.
Yeah, but
he's like, but because you have a strong leader in Gerard, when I die, I want to come back like you.
Yeah.
Smart and handsome, right? So like you have these interactions, and it was very reminiscent of when we watched Alien.
Yeah.
Alien, that opening 20 minutes, these are just blue collar workers interacting, complaining, engaging with one another, and you bring that element to a group of U.S. Marshals that are trying to find the fugitive, and it makes you love Gerard Butler, the character of Gerard.
Yeah.
And so like, this is why I think this is his movie, because Tommy Lee Jones carries a lot of like the emotional parts outside of a man who's mourning the death of his wife and figuring out how to survive. You bring this other perspective of the man that's hunting him, and it was Andrew Davis who said that he wanted to pull a lot of inspiration from Jean Valjean from Les Mis, of this officer, of this lawman that's just wants to get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's why the line of "I don't care" hits so well.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to get the job done, and he cares for, as how he says, for his chickens, right? Or what does he say? Like, these are my chicks, is how he sees his team. He is the
mama hen.
The mama hen, right? And he wants to protect them. and I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but like the moment when they catch Coleman and he shoots him, right? And you have the one cop who's like, I love that the movie takes a moment to explain this. Like, you have two officers,
Yes.
who are disagreeing on whether he should have bargained or not,
Yes.
right? And one of them is the kid. He's basically saying like, I didn't like that you did that.
Yeah.
You could have missed. You could have hurt
Yeah.
me, and it's so interesting because oftentimes in movies where we have federal agents being portrayed, they are the protagonist. They are portrayed as, you know, they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Take for example, like Mission Impossible movies, right?
Yeah.
Ethan will always do the right thing,
Yes.
right? And
We don't have to disagree with
we
him.
don't have to disagree with him. Like, even though his superiors and he's always been disavowed, that's just a trope of those movies. But like, he's never really quite fully challenged in the way here you have a subordinate emotionally challenging his superior and saying like, I didn't like that. And for him to then say, can you hear me? I don't bargain.
Yeah.
That tells us, that's what, towards the end of the second act.
Yes.
We're still showing character development. That plants a seed on us that there's a chance that if he bumps into Kimball,
There's no bargain.
there's no bargaining.
Yeah.
He will take him out if he needs to.
Yeah.
And I think that is just so great from a character development perspective to show us that side of Gerard.
No, what I think this man, that scene is so good. It too often, it's almost as if, you know, like, this is one of those moments like, no, there is pushback.
Yeah.
There, you know, like, when you have pushback, you set boundaries, you know, or you set you set a line. Right, because when people disagree, someone has to vocalize it, or they don't vocalize it, and both of them are going to leave a statement, right? And it's just the same thing, you know, in your life and work. You know, if you don't say anything, things are just going to go the way that they're going to go.
Yeah.
And you know, I recently there's a new intern at work, and she's older. She'd gone back to school, and she not older, she's like our age, you know, in her 30s, but she's going to school with all these young kids, so she feels like she needs to like step her game up and try to compete with these younger kids to be able to get a job. She comes in, starts doing there, but you know, she's like, I don't know if I should say anything. I'm like, listen, if you don't say anything, you're never gonna know where the bar is. You're never gonna know if you can or not. And I think this is a perfect example in a film, being able to depict a moment like that. It's in a serious situation, an extreme situation, from where we don't have to deal with like a life and death of an individual. But what I love about that scene is that there's this new guy who, like, I don't agree with how you're doing this, like you said, when, you know, him with Gerard saying, I don't bargain. One, like you said, it sets the tone. Well, what's going to happen next? Yet again, an opening loop. We're leaving it answers a question that has been posed, but it opens up another loop in our mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But the second thing that happens is like, what is his story? And I think that I love that you said, this is his movie.
Yeah.
But I think this movie doesn't work if we come at it from his perspective, which is why they're like, no, I think we need to work the script. Because if we come at it from his perspective, just another day at work, and he's the jerk, there isn't as big of growth. And I think part of it's because you're in that moment. But when you're when you're following Kimball's journey of like, is he going to get caught? You know, the pressure, that continual pressure, and the moments of him catching up, and Gerard's pressure of having to need to find him and wanting to find this man. But then as they progress, like, I love that they come back, they're in the office, and they start to piece together, or they get to when he calls him from from Sykes' apartment, which Gerard comes like, what is this? Oh no. Sykes he gets brought in. Sykes gets brought in. He's like, what is this? The trench coat convention? Anyways, but having this moment of him starting to like not be a marshal.
Yeah.
And start to ask himself the question of like,
start being a detective.
Just starting to be a detective. Like, what was actually going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, I love the characterization of Gerard, and it's crucial because this movie is a dual protagonist, right? Like you're rooting for Kimball. You know that he didn't kill his wife.
Yeah.
But because you take time to show me the interactions and the development of Gerard, which I think we spend even more developing his character than Kimball.
Yeah.
I also want him to be successful. I also want him to catch, at the beginning, Kimball. But now, as he's starting to see there's something more at play here, you want him to also be involved in the solving of the murder.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's such a fun approach to this movie because you could have played this out as let's just focus on Kimball, on our fugitive, right? And we have someone that's after him. I mean, we've casually talked about Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, and how that movie, you very much have your good guys, your bad guys, but you're also cheering for your quote-unquote bad guys. Here, you want both of these to succeed. And by taking the time to flesh out the character, to put him against his team and why we want him to succeed, I think it's smart character development here. That could have gone in a whole other direction, and it wouldn't have been as efficient as we see it on here.
Well, I was going to bring it up. I was like, this movie could have been a detective movie.
Yeah.
Right. This could be a classic cop movie. Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that we have marshals, again, it's just another emphasis to say, no, we're looking at this in a different perspective, right? Marshals are there to capture the fugitive. Anyways, I will say I really enjoy the detective nature of Kimball's character as his growth, despite it being, it's him processing. I will say, I do kind of wish there had been one other scene of him helping, because he helps the kid. He sees the X-ray and he knows what's going on, and he's like, "Guys, you're messing up."
Yeah.
Right. But I think I would enjoyed one other one. I mean, I know he kind of. Let's see. He also does. Does he help anybody else?
Yeah. So when he first goes to the hospital at the beginning, they bring in the officer or the guard that got hurt.
That's right.
in the bus sequence.
Yeah.
And he puts the breathing mask on him, and it's like, oh, he's
got a lower,
puncture or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, oh, how could he?
No, it's just
looking at him, right? Yeah. So he helps there. He helps the kid. So this movie had 6 editors.
Yeah, I did actually. I'm glad you brought this up because I remember seeing this and I'm like, oof.
Which, if you tell me you have 6 editors, that's a sign of like, oh, this movie's not good. Like you need an extra. Traditionally,
I think it could also be that like, like they didn't have budget and they ran out of. They're like, we got to go start from this guy, or we had to start with the bottom totem pole and move up the ladder until we wanted the final cut to be done by the last person or something. I don't know what the breakdown is on that, but
they I was watching some of the behind the scenes and
because you bought the DVD.
I sure did. I sure did. But Andrew Davis is talking about he likes to shoot with a minimum of 3 cameras.
Oh, he's a 3 camera guy.
And most of the time he has 4.
I love this. Okay.
So he's taking, and Tommy Lee Jones is talking about this in the behind the scenes, and he's like, he specifically the jail when he goes and visits the one guy, and he's like, when we're there, like he has 3-4 cameras at all times. So he's shooting to get different angles, to get different shots, and he's sending these dailies over, and quite honestly, we did need 6 editors
Yeah, to sift that footage.
They have to sift through all that footage and piece together what works best. And then Davis would go into the editing room and help them out and be like, oh, let's go with this, whatever, right? But like, I find that fascinating because that's a lot of cameras to use.
Well, and this is filmed still.
And this is film. You have a lot of editors working on it. You film this in a period of 6-8 weeks, and then you have to get it out in 3 months. So like, it's so cool.
So here's the thing. I knew that traditional. I don't know if we brought it up here. If you watched, I think, our trailer on Napoleon, or our reaction on Napoleon the movie, what's his bucket? Ridley Scott does this as well.
Yeah.
It's not a very common practice, filming with multiple cameras, unless you're doing action scenes because you're trying to capture one event. But when you're capturing drama, traditional, whatever, they're often rocking only one camera. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge benefit of doing multiple cameras. And it's the fact that as a director or even as an editor for this film, your coverage gets tripled. Because it's not just because normally you would film the initial scene as a wide angle, then you come into your coverage of over the shoulder or a single your single shot of the one character, single shot of another character, a close up of that character. Then you come in and try to pick up some your detail shot or whatever. The benefit here is you can operate more like a play.
Yeah.
The difference here is that you're capturing the different moments and you're to a level you're saying, okay, it's almost as if you're doing like a live, like you're taping live for live television or for like, what do they call it? Like Survivor or whatever, but the camera's always going. And you have multiple people getting different angles and different shots in order to capture this moment. Now, the benefit in a narrative perspective is that you get to highlight, you as a director, you can go to one of the camera operators and say, listen, I want you to focus on only Gerard. Yeah. Your whole goal is to capture what you feel like is going to be Gerard. Next person, you're capturing Kimball. You are capturing wides, maybe, and then if you're doing a fourth one, you're doing details. Mm-hmm. You're following their hands. You're looking at, like you're doing the close-ups or whatever, right? Or the person who's doing close-ups is doing all the details and close-up shots if you're doing a three-camera setup. But, obviously the amount of data you're getting is so much.
Yeah.
Even today, then it wasn't data. It was just like the amount of processing because you had to either I think at this time they're probably beginning digitizing to some degree or at least processing in whatever the dailies looked at in the film. I've never worked with film, so I know there is a process to get that now to digitize, but there's also this other level that like there is so much flexibility in how you get to craft a story in that final edit because you're no longer because if you're tied down, if you're filming, you have to either go to reshoots. In this case, it's almost like you don't have to do reshoots. You just like, can we what other leverage angle can we pull in order to go to get the edit done?
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is truly this is a killer feature. Like when we go to film our first film, I will be doing multiple cameras. Because it's like, well, that's gonna be so much. But I'm like, I don't care. I'd much rather be able to get different things, even though we might do 2-3 runs. That just gives us the flexibility to like highlight something that we wouldn't have captured because we only had the one camera.
Yeah. I love that you bring this up because, like top of mind, I'm thinking of again the scene where Kimball is being interrogated, right?
Yeah.
You have the camera that's off to his left, looking at his reactions. You have an over the shoulder of him looking at the officers. You have some close-ups of the officers as they're interrogating him, and you have this beautiful edit of going between all these different angles to create that moment of like of franticness, right?
Yes.
Of what's happening here? And also I'm thinking of the other scene of when Gerard goes and confronts Nichols. at the convention, right? And you have the same thing. You have an over the shoulder looking at Gerard.
You have a side profile.
Yes, and you have like, are you sure you haven't seen Kimball? And they're interrogating him to a degree, and they're just going back and forth, and it's adding that tension of like, oh no, he's lying, right? And we know he's lying, but now Gerard is recognizing that he's withholding some truth. And I just love the use of all of these cameras and leveraging your editors to like piece together this movie. So when they finalized the cut, they showed it to Warner Brothers and they were like, "Oh, this is perfect." Like
no notes.
No notes. Publish, right?
Dude, that's
but he goes back and he does 150 more edits.
Oh, dude, that's such a freaking what a beauty.
This movie cuts out any fat that is not needed.
This is okay. This is what I'm telling you. When I said at the very beginning, I'm like, this feels just like one of these like those films in this 90s era, maybe even before in the 80s. Like there's these set films that we just don't get as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of Dune. Okay, don't get me wrong. I freaking love Dune.
Yeah.
It is beautifully shot. It is a wonderful undertaking for a sci-fi legacy IP that deserves to be on the big screen. Mm-hmm. The world building, the uniqueness of the story, and whatnot. But let's be honest here, okay?
Hot take.
Okay, let's be honest here. Those movies could have been one movie.
I disagree. That's a hard disagree on my end, but go on.
That's fine. But my thing here is that what fat are you trimming? Okay? They could have been one movie.
Yeah.
Right? But what we want out of a film comes down to how do you want to portray this story? Now, Dune, we want build-up.
We want build-up, right.
We want the political draw out. We want the tension between the houses, the fight for the spice. In The Fugitive, we're on the hunt. We're on the prowl. We're looking for answers.
Yes.
And when you look at that, whatever the story may be, you are trying to craft the best story. And I think that what I know as an editor, and if I was going to go a traditional route, I would 100% want to go to be an editor. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because it's the final draft.
Yeah.
And the edit, there is always something that you can cut out. There were people come to me, they're like, Danny, hey, how's this video edit? And about 6.5 years ago, I realized that like, I'm going to make a cut. And if I can look at that cut and say, how can I cut this in by 50%? It's going to be a better cut. Right? I wish I could do that with our pod. Okay? I wish I had the time to be able to go in and say, we get done and I'm like, no, I should cut that. Yeah. It's just tighter. If you feel the energy or you can fit in what you're trying to do.
Sure.
Right? And with Dune, even though you could fit in one movie, the point wasn't about the cuts. Right?
Yeah. You bring up a good point. And again, I think because this movie, and you said it perfectly, we are just trying to we're trying to solve the murder. And the essence of this movie is we're chasing after the truth and we're chasing after our fugitive, right? So the pacing has to be quick, has to be fast because of the nature of the story that we're telling.
Yeah.
Whereas a Dune, yes, we're doing a lot of build-up. We're in a foreign planet. We're trying to so many cultures we're trying to figure out. But I love just the ability to just cut the fat in this movie, right? And because they were literally working out the script, even the character of Julianne Moore, right? She's billed as like 3 in this movie.
Yeah.
And like she's only in there for like a minute and a half. Yeah. There was a larger story here where there was going to be a love interest with her, but then they cut that out. But like that's smart.
Yeah.
You cut out the fat. If you want this movie to feel like you're constantly going and going and going because of the nature of chasing after the truth, chasing after a fugitive, you have to do that. And I think that is such a smart approach that Andrew Davis and team had for this is the studio loves this final cut. How can I improve it? Now, not every time when you finish a movie, you should go back to the editing room and be like, what more can we do, right?
That's not the lesson we're trying to tell here.
Yeah, that's not what we're telling here. A week ago or 3 days ago, James Gunn said, "Oh, the movie's done for Superman. That's coming out next month, right? Like, it's done. Does he have time to go back and cut more? Sure, but he's done with it. And the story or the point that we're trying to tell here is, how do you improve your movie to make sure that it's pacing well, that it's supporting the story that you want to tell, whether that's in a longer cut with like a Dune, or it's here we cut and trim moments, shots, or storylines that just don't support the narrative that we're trying to tell.
You can cut, or you can rework, or you can do so many things to a film. You got to know when it's time to put it down. Now, the benefit I think that Ann Davies has with The Fugitive is that they shot. They had the footage to leverage.
Yeah.
Right? Not most films can do that.
Right.
Right? It requires additional shoots. Mm-hmm. Look at a Mission Impossible. Right? 100%. They had to go. They had to switch it up. They had to rework something. Go back out and shoot on huge locations, big sets. That whole scenario. Now these guys, they worked with what they got and they captured what they could. Right? Mm-hmm. And then they worked it in the edit. Now, also, not a lesson to say we'll fix it in post. Okay, early editor, early filmmakers. That's not what we're trying to do, right? What we can learn from Fugitive is, and this is not just the reason why I love this film is like I love a good character story arc, mm-hmm. and a lot of films nowadays we don't get it as much when it comes to character. We get the story, we get a wonderful story, but the build up and what the give and take from characters in that film can sometimes be left to the wayside in lieu of a more cinematic sequence of shots, that's the maybe it's a little bit more fat. They're just like it still benefits the story, but it doesn't necessarily benefit the character. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, when I finish this film, I immediately want to watch it again. Yeah. And I think that's the power of when you take a story and you've crafted it to a way that they have trimmed out the fat and highlighted the moments that you're trying to accomplish for that story and for the characters. Because it's not just about the story. It's about that draw of like, wow, man, what I want to be on that journey again.
Yeah, yeah. Look, Andrew Davis goes on to film 2 of your favorite movies, Holes.
Yes, I do love Holes.
And The Guardian?
Yeah, with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher. You have not seen that film.
I have not seen that movie, no.
I'm going to put it in the docket because I love that movie so much.
Yeah. He doesn't come back for the sequel. Nope. No one comes back for the sequel except for Tommy Lee Jones and his team. Yeah. But none of the writers, directors, the producers stayed on. But I want to talk about just like two things here. One, your favorite scene. What's your favorite scene? And then the second thing that I want to talk about is like just the impact and legacy that this left. And we'll segue into my pitch.
You're right. Okay. I really love the. I know the train scene's great. Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. It's action packed. It's like you just CG as cool as it is. That practicalness of like it's a miniature train, I think. No, it's a real train.
It's a real train,
right?
It's still in North Carolina. You can go see it and like tour it. Yeah, they just left the wreckage there, and it's just maintained as like, oh, here's where the film,
The Fugitive. Dude, we gotta go.
It's in North Carolina.
Dude, that's freaking sick. I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's so cool. So I love that. I actually really enjoy the reveal of of him confronting his friend who murders, who ends up Nichols. Him coming into the conference. I don't know. There's something about this like he's helped Kimball. He seemed like a genuine person. I clocked him a little bit earlier, not too much earlier, realizing like this guy, when he gets interrogated by Gerard, is when you're just like, this guy,
he's in,
you dirty rat. But that scene, is again one of the shining moments for Ford, of like, this man has come to the realization after month and a half, 2 months, or whatever the time period is, of being on the run, has been helped out by this man, has had to go through a few realizations, some clarity and understanding, and figuring out what happened, and at the end of the day, realizing that all the work that he had done well was robbed from him in order to fill someone's pockets.
Yeah.
That results in the death of his wife. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't go in yelling, amateur writer. Nichols!
Yeah.
It's your fault!
And maybe it was written like that, but the choice for Harrison Ford to approach this after this big adrenaline rush of confronting Sykes, making it over here.
Yes.
And that's a great scene.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's between the interrogation of Harrison Ford. I just love the franticness, the realization of like, oh, I'm screwed here.
Yeah.
They're going to pin this on me.
Yeah.
And like, go find that man, right? His acting, his looks, his facial expressions. I mean, this is why Harrison Ford is one of the greatest actors of the last century. Today still.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's just phenomenal. I love that sequence. I think, but it's the jail sequence when he's leaving after realizing that the one-armed man is not who he's looking for, and you have Gerard and his team coming up.
Yes.
And then he does that beautiful like take from Tommy Lee Jones as he's going up the stairs. He looks, and then he does a double take, and realizes it's him, Campbell, and then looks up and looks. That whole moment, I love, because again, that's one of those moments that captivated me as a kid. Of just like, there isn't this big fight sequence, this big chase. I mean, it turns into a chase, but like, the music is playing. James Newton Howard, again, second week in a row. Just his score, nominated for an Oscar. But like, it's just the piano's ding, 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 right? And like, he realizes it's not his man, so he's leaving. And the security guard realizes that it might be Kimball and maybe not. Gerard's going up the stairs. He can't wait for the elevator. And it's just the moment they realize. And the chase, the hunt begins. And they're going down the stairs. Oh, I just love that entire moment. And it ends with him shooting him through the security doors.
Yes.
But then it leads right into the parade sequence.
Yes.
And it's just, this is like, you don't need big gun shooting sequences or like, I mean, yes, we love, I don't know why I keep going back to Mission Impossible, right? But like, we love our car chase moments in those movies, but like, here is just, quote unquote, Jean Valjean going after his man, right?
Yeah.
Gerard going after his man, and he will not stop until he catches him. And I just love that entire moment. Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I also think this is amplified because they probably had so much coverage. 3 cameras.
Yeah.
They're following 3 cameras. 2 of them on the steady. They're on, all 3 of them are on steady cam. Maybe one of them's locked off on one, kind of like on a pan head or something, and they can like, they get to take the take that they feel like is gonna, that just the moment. I would love to edit that, man. I would love to have the opportunity to just like see. Like you're watching this multicam as you're like trying to craft this story and be able to like, oh no, I'm gonna take this take, and be able to like have a couple of revisions of like, did this feel? No, maybe you know what? No, I'm gonna cut to Kimball here, and instead, I just would be so that gets me so pumped as an editor, because it would be because like, don't get me wrong, like I get pumped when I get a traditional cut like that.
Yeah.
But having something to work with. Mm-hmm. It's part of the reason why when,
to work with and with so many options,
yes,
right?
You can, how it's no longer about like how, this is how we told the story. It's how do we want to tell the story now?
Build tension, Build, release. It's so good.
So freaking
So
great.
good.
Okay, so this was a TV show
This was a TV show
turned into a movie.
turned into a movie,
What's your
1993.
pitch for a new a reboot as a series?
Yeah. Yeah, and just a little context. I don't think this movie was ever meant to be the success that it is. Right? It gives Tommy Lee Jones his nomination and his Oscar win.
Yep.
Okay. Which may be a little controversial. That year he was going up against Liam Neeson in Schindler's List. And DiCaprio for What's Eating Albert Grape, whatever that movie's called. So a little controversial, but whatever. However you feel about it. This was the second highest grossing film of the year after Jurassic Park. It made 7 times its money. If it wasn't for the success of this, I don't think we would have Mission Impossible. That was also based on a TV show.
Yeah.
3 years later,
in 96.
96, yeah. 3 years later, we get
3
Mission
years.
Impossible.
Yep.
So, like, we wouldn't have that franchise if it wasn't for this. Now, we get the sequel, U.S. Marshals. No one comes back for it. Like, none of the
main core
team. Doesn't perform as well. And we haven't... there was a remake in, like, early 2000s with Tim Daly, like a TV series.
For U.S. Marshal or
for The Fugitive.
The Fugitive.
And then most recently, in 2020, in one of those cheap streaming Tubi,
Yes.
there was a Fugitive TV series with Kiefer Sutherland.
That's right.
I didn't see it.
I don't think I saw it, but I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe, hold on. In 2020. No.
In 2020.
Right? 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was on Tubi.
I think it was.
Or one
yeah.
one of those streaming services.
Yeah.
Pluto TV, maybe. Have you ever watched anything on Pluto TV, dude?
Like once. Because it was on a Roku, and I'm like, shit, those hell, let me see.
Let's see what's on there.
It's like, oh, this is old television.
Yeah.
Get this crap out of here.
I just think, why haven't we had a successful retelling, continuation, whatever it is? And for me, if there's a producer out there, like, this is a very viable IP.
100% viable.
Like, we need more of this. And I think if you focus on Gerard's character.
Okay. So that's, okay, yeah.
You have The Fugitive.
How do you go about doing this? Do you focus, does every season, would you take every season, would you redo Kimball
I
in
would
the first
redo
season?
Kimball in the first season. And then every season after that is a new fugitive.
Yeah.
One that is convicted and well, not convicted, but like who is a legit bad guy?
Yeah.
What's the word I'm trying to say?
Is a convicted felon.
A convicted felon, but not wrongfully convicted.
No. Oh, yeah. I think you could play with that.
Yeah.
You could have one that is like, we can start with Kimball Sutherland as a reboot. Obviously, give you the benefit of like, we're gonna give you something you know.
Yep.
We're gonna tell it in a new way, but benefit not only Gerard but his team.
Right. What's carrying us over season to season is Gerard and his team.
Correct.
You focus on these characters. I mean, yeah, you can flesh out like their motives and who they are. Obviously, you do an 8 episode per season to tell a story, but you really focus on them. And every season you have a new person that they're going after.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's someone that's wrongfully accused. Other times it's a person that actually did escape and we need to catch him.
Yeah.
Or multiple people that you need to go after.
Right.
And you focus on the dynamics of this group. And I think that's what makes this movie so successful for the character of Gerard, as we've talked about, is you put him against a group of individuals that challenge him, that admire him, that follow him, that gives him a moment to lead, to instruct, to guide. And this is who you really base your entire series on, is Gerard and his team. And how he is being challenged by his team, but also by the person that he's going after. both intellectually, emotionally, judicially. Are they really innocent? Are they not? And kind of build that out. And I think now that I recently watched U.S. Marshals, I think what I don't like about I enjoy the movie. It's nowhere near as good as this. But like, what's wrong with that movie is that you did the same thing as the Fugitive. You have someone who's been wrongfully convicted, and they need to escape, or they managed to escape, and now they're trying to clear their name. And it's a former U.S. Marine, and it gets a little bit intense. Like he's jumping off a building and like swinging onto a moving train. So it
Mission Impossible E.
Yeah, it went a little bit over the top. But like you keep it grounded and you focus on new interactions on who the Fugitive is. And I think it's a recipe for like a good solid 5 seasons they can get out of this.
See, this is not quite there. Well, no, I was trying to think of like, I mean, there's tons of series that have this kind of like, it's not quite the Fugitive. I mean, this is why I think, we have, I think the closest thing we got is actually, Prison Break. It's not the same premise, but like, right. But you're following this a Prison Break, but this, I think the fact that you start with every season, you start with the first episode is always a wild breakout, or escape, right? You
tell us who the Fugitive is, right? Yes. What the indictment was, the
struggle, and this drive for them to either get out, or in Kimbrough's in this situation, like the lucky opportunity for them to make a break.
Right?
Which I think this is a really crucial key. Is like, either if it's going to be plotted, you got to have set your rules, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if it's going to be plotted, if they're going to break out, it's because there's a giant motive, right? They need to go kill somebody, or they need
to clear their name.
They're trying to clear their name, right? However, there is, or on the other flip side is like, if there's an opportunity for them to break out, it's like I did do the thing I did, but I'm a changed person, and I don't want to live the rest of my life in this place. I want to start fresh.
Yeah, interesting.
Right? This more of a, it's like catch me if you can perspective, right? Like, and there, I think the other perspective is, I think you need to put pressure on Gerard that his old school days of gunslinging are no longer viable.
Yeah.
Right? And you start having this pressure of like local law enforcement, or like Gerard getting this, like his team respecting him, but he takes these chances, these, like, I don't bargain. And this is a rule for Gerard. That he's like, I don't bargain. But having this one time with Gerard that sets with Kimball in the first season, saying like, well, he says he doesn't bargain, but he made this one situation. We get a second season. Will he bargain? Will he bargain again? I don't know, you're 100%. It's
there's something here, and maybe like, there's other shows out there like similar to this where you're following law enforcement as they're out catching.
I mean, Justified. But here's the thing: is like they're always focusing directly on the marshal or the the police officer. It can't be. You gotta pull it from the villain perspective.
Yeah,
that's what's a win here.
Yeah. Or maybe I just wanted to see more of Tommy Lee Jones as this character and continue it on, because he plays it so well. I just think there's something here. We got to see more of it. We got to see more of this team and get that fleshed out and give me more seasons. That's all I want. That's all I want out of this.
Oh man, I think we could talk about this movie for another freaking hour.
Yeah, we could.
So we truly we hope you guys enjoyed today's episode on The Fugitive. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. If you love this episode, leave us a review or drop a comment to start a conversation.
We really want to hear from you. What's your favorite moment from The Fugitive? Do you think we deserve a spinoff? You can always connect with us by joining our newsletter at realchums.com/newsletter. You can also find me, Marcel, on Instagram at Threads. Sorry. You can also find me, Marcel, on Instagram and Threads at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
And you can find me at Rubio.tv.
Join us next week. We're continuing our month of Wrongfully Accused with Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest. Oh, it's been a while for me since I've seen this.
Yeah, it's been about 4 years.
And after watching The Fugitive, I'm like, I am ready. Super stoked for North by Northwest.
So pumped. See you in the next one.
Later.